YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. A day before the NFL draft, we got a bunch of big-time rumors, as usual, floating around here. And maybe more will come out even closer to the draft, and during the draft, I'm sure they will. But I'm here to play Fact or Smoke with these rumors like we do every year. Really enjoy this video, so hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. Day one of the NFL draft. We'll be right here live on the Goat House YouTube channel, breaking down each pick, our reactions. So turn notifications on so you don't miss that, so you're ready for that. Day 2 and 3, I will break down every single pick, my thoughts on every single pick on our Twitter live. So make sure you check out that Twitter. Make sure you follow it. A lot of extra content that we couldn't get to on the channel will be on there as well leading up to the draft. Absolute must follow. So subscribe, smash that like button. Still got my final mock draft on the way. And again, follow that Twitter. Very important. But here's our Twitter, @GoatHouseNFL. And just a lot of discussion. You know, Teddy Bridgewater got traded. We were talking about all of it, just thoughts on the NFL draft, and I guess again we'll be breaking down live picks on day 2 and 3 in here. Don't mind the order for this this video, just a random order, but it's not going to affect the video in general. The Falcons kind of get the feeling that maybe a quarterback is first on their board. I think it started with the Kyle Pitts thing. He said he believes quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3, 4 in the draft. That's kind of odd that he thinks that. Is he hearing it? Teams telling him that? Teams telling his agent? His agent's probably, knows his stuff, within the NFL, how the draft works. So that's interesting, and it makes you wonder, kind of backtracking. The Falcons did do an insane amount of work on quarterbacks, specifically the ones that were realistic. So get rid of Lawrence and Zach Wilson in that category. They did just as much, maybe if not more homework than anybody right there with the 49ers with those quarterbacks. So it kind of feels like there's one maybe that they really, really like, and I think that those things kind of go together. So I'm actually going to say fact, and people will take this the wrong way. People will say, oh, you think the Falcons are taking quarterback before? It's not what I said. I think if they're one quarterback that they really like, that they may have fell in love with throughout this evaluation process is there, they will take them. I'm starting to think it could be the same exact one the Niners take. So if the Niners don't take a quarterback, they will take a quarterback. If they don't take the Falcons quarterback, which I think they may, then I think the Falcons will take that guy. I'm going to be convinced that if the Falcons don't take quarterback here, that the Niners took their guy. That's just the way it feels right now. My opinion, but that's really how it feels. So, most likely they can end up with Kyle Pitts. Again, they could trade back if they find a partner. I just don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm going to go fact there, but again, maybe most likely it's Kyle Pitts still, but we'll do my final mock and see what I think. But the draft is pretty mysterious. The Chargers want to trade up for an offensive tackle. I think it's a pretty easy one. I'm not guaranteeing they do, but I think it's a fact that they want to. I've had a mock draft a month ago. I've done one recently where I had the Chargers trading up for Penei Sewell, so it's really not a surprise here. Some teams will have one set tackle that's way high on their board. Most teams will have 2. Some teams will probably have 3. Throw Darsaw in there. It's kind of right there with those guys if you watch his tape this year, but does have somewhat of an injury concern that's popping up. But I think most teams, maybe teams like the Chargers, like kind of the 2 guys, so they know they have to move up to get one. And I think that could be a guy like Penei Sewell. But we'll see. They have other needs as well. Maybe it could end up being smoked this whole time. But I do think they're looking for that very important left tackle role there. Moving on. The Lions going QB if their guy falls. That's kind of getting out there. They're still in the quarterback market despite everyone kind of writing them off with the Jared Goff trade. I think it's kind of odd, and that's why I'm not really buying it. More surprising things have happened in the past, so who knows? It's NFL draft surprising days. But I'm going Smoking Jay here because you hear that it's a prime trade spot. They want to trade back. They love Goff. They're paying him a lot of money. He's young. They like him. They like his fit. And then all of a sudden they're gonna take a quarterback. Those things don't really go together. I guess all the other ones could be false, and that one could be true. But it just doesn't go together. Like I said, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Same thing over the Panthers. This really getting out there very recently, a day or 2 ago here, that the Panthers are still on a quarterback. If the right guy falls, they'll take him, even though they traded for Sam Darnold. They did just trade just a little bit ago, trade away Teddy Bridgewater. So that kind of opens up, maybe another spot there. But I think they really like Sam Darnold. They invested a lot in him. I think you can upgrade within this draft from Sam Darnold, but I don't think they believe that. I think what they're doing here is they want a team to trade ahead of them to take a quarterback, so a talented player falls to them. Because if a quarterback goes ahead of them all of a sudden, obviously somebody drops back at least a spot. So I think that's what the Panthers' goal is here. Pretty obvious in my opinion. The Giants want to trade back. We heard this not super recently, but it's definitely a thing right now out there floating around the draft world. First, you look at it, Dave Gettleman's never traded back. Does that mean he won't trade back? No. There's a first for everything. But you could say maybe it's not that likely because he's just never traded back. You could make that assumption. And then, you factor in the talent that's going to be there around that range, and maybe they're putting that smoke out there so teams feel comfortable behind the Giants if that talented player slides and the Giants can pounce on them. So that would make me say this is smoke. But then again, the Giants got a pretty damn complete roster. I do like this roster, very complete, but I think Dave Gettleman and company may actually think it's a little more complete than the rest of us do, or at least I do, even though I do think it's very complete. What I mean by that, let's get it out of the way. They don't think they have a need at quarterback, whether you disagree or not. Let's not focus on that. They got Daniel Jones. That's their guy. They're relying on the development. Somewhat understandable for that. Let's get that out of the way. But I think they're doing the same thing with the offensive line. I would like for them to add another big-time offensive lineman. They could think they're set there because they got some young guys, and they do got some young good guys as well. So that kind of just leaves linebacker in general. Inside and outside linebacker is really their only needs in their views. And what you do when you draft off need, if you do it, is if you trade back to get it in the right value spot. So that's kind of where I think their head is at. They view themselves very complete. They need just one or two guys here to finish the job. And they're going to trade back and try to trade back, not guarantee anything here. And get their guy in that right spot. But who knows? Maybe it could have been smoke the whole time, and they just want that right guy to follow them and pounce on them there. Raiders want to trade back. The other day, before we heard anything on the Raiders, I had a trade candidates video, and I kind of said I felt like this was a trade back team just because, when I play around with different options at 17 for them, it doesn't really seem like they get extreme value, or there's no great value, no really good value, doesn't necessarily mean bad value, but it's just nothing wow unless somebody drops them, maybe with the exception of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. But do they view they need that guy? Do they feel that they have that role filled already, perhaps that linebacker safety hybrid, guy that plays in the box a lot? So I kind of felt like it kind of made sense to trade back a little bit, if the right guy didn't fall. Who knows, some surprising guy could fall. And then they're kind of linked to safeties at one point, like Javon Merrig and Javon Holland. I kind of put those together there and say that they could trade back, and maybe doesn't have to be, but they take one of those safeties. So I'm gonna say fact. I'm not. This isn't saying they're for sure gonna trade back, and they could want to, depending on, if somebody big time falls to them, then probably not, but we'll see. Cardinals want to trade up for a receiver. This is a real tough one. We've heard this a lot. And maybe I'm going a little bold because it's a tough one here. I'm going to say smoke. I think they could want to trade up, but I'm thinking it's maybe more for a corner. It could be for – I would love for them to get a receiver, a separator. They don't have that great separator. DeAndre Hopkins, overall a great receiver, obviously, but they could use a receiver, a big-time separator there. But I kind of get the feeling they may want to move up for a corner. I'd prefer them to move up for a receiver. I've also heard about them staying put, kind of make it a surprising pick. They've kind of done their homework on some guys that have been talked about, a little later than 16, but maybe they take one of those guys there. Zaven Collins is one that keeps popping up. So the Cardinals are up to something. It's really hard to figure it out what exactly they're doing. If they trade it up, I would almost think corner, which I would prefer the receiver depending on who it is. If Devontae Smith falls through, I would love that for the Cardinals, but we'll see. It's definitely a tough one. The Bills targeting a running back, specifically Travis Etienne. It's kind of came out that they're targeting that running back. This kind of just died off if the Bills could get a running back. I was on record during the season and early offseason saying that they need a true number one because they got a solid group in there, But do they have that true number one takeover guy that's going to elevate this offense? A running back that makes, defenses fear the running game will make things even easier and make Josh Allen even better. And then you can get the full potential out of the offense. So that made sense to me. I know whenever I played around with that idea, the Bills fans, or I think fans in general, just ripped me like, no, they're not taking a running back. So now if they took one, I think it would be pretty damn upsetting for them. But I'm still not seeing it. Even though I think they can use a legit number one, I'm still not seeing it. I should have put targeting running back in the first round is kind of what the rumor's been. I'm just really, I don't know. I'm just really not seeing it here because even with these backs, I do like the top couple backs. You guys know I'm a big Javonte Williams guy, but are these guys, for a sure thing number one? They're only going to get a running back if it's a sure thing number one for them. That's going to really change the offense. Otherwise, they're going to target an edge rusher or a cornerback. So, I think it's got to be smoke. I think it would upset a lot of fans if they, took a running back there, specifically if they reach for one maybe. So we'll see. Steelers targeting a running back here. It's a tough one too, but I ended up going fact because, yeah. I mean, they need to target a running back pretty much, but it's tough about in the first round. But this is such a tough one because you would think they would kind of get the offensive line under control first. What good is the running back of that offensive line? Is a disaster. And right now it kind of looks like a disaster. So I just don't. It doesn't really feel like smoke to me. They're going to be targeting a running back. Does that mean they're taking a running back? I think the right one's there, and they could take him. I just don't want them to reach for one, but. It doesn't really feel like smoke to me. To answer it, yes, they could be targeting a running back, but if it would have said targeting an offensive lineman, the answer probably would have been fact as well. So it's tough. A lot of needs here for the Steelers, but I'll see if they can get it done in the draft. Next, the Ravens want to trade back. That kind of came out that they're fielding calls. I'm not going to say no, they're not fielding calls, but I don't think they're that serious about trading back. Everyone's open to taking calls and open to almost any move for the right price if it is right, but I just don't think they really want to do this. It wouldn't make sense at all because, and the news was specifically with the 31st pick, which was the Chiefs pick. So if they gave up their second round pick so they can get that 31st pick, that was kind of that swap in there. They got the third and the fourth along with it, a swap of next year picks, not really relevant in this scenario. So if you trade it back from 31, depending on where you went, you would swap that 31 for a second, and you may not even get a third round pick back. That's kind of best case. It could be a second, the swap, remember, and a fourth. It could be best case a third. But imagine that if that ended up being the case, they trade back to a second. We'll give them the best case. They get a third. That means they traded Orlando Brown for basically a swap of seconds, Chiefs, and they get somebody else's seconds while giving theirs away. And then basically a swap of seconds, and they gained a third, and a fourth. Then it wouldn't make any sense at all to me. It wouldn't make any sense. And people expected them to get more as it was for Orlando Brown. So this would be a big time bummer, I'd imagine. It just doesn't make sense. Unless they got some crazy value like second, third. I don't know. I just don't see it. Dolphins, Flowers trade changes the plan. So yesterday they traded Eric Flowers, and the news is that they can move Robert Hunt to guard, like I've been calling for. Does that change their plans? This is a little bit of a tricky question I set myself up with, but I'm going to say smoke because I think they planned on trading Flowers for quite some time. I think it just finally kicked in, but that doesn't mean much. I think they had a plan when they traded with the Niners and the Eagles. I think they had a plan all along on who they were targeting and the guy they felt comfortable they can get. And now it's kind of coming out. They could, a couple weeks ago, that they could actually trade back again. It's for that same guy they had in mind. They're starting to realize maybe we can get him a little later. Maybe not as far back as 12. Maybe we can get a little later. So I think they had a guy in mind. And with this, I'm not saying it's not an offensive lineman. I'm not saying it is an offensive lineman. It could be an old lineman. It could be a receiver. What I think is interesting is the Flowers part is about a few months ago, a couple months ago, actually, I heard from somebody that a credible source around the Dolphins, that writes for them, covers them. The Dolphins could be switching blocking schemes to more like an outside zone, which is working for other teams. So when they make the switch, more teams are going to that. And it was kind of just a prediction. And Flowers is more of an inside zone / gap blocking guy. They got rid of him. Hunt fits better at guard in that type of scheme that they're going towards. Things are starting to make sense. Now, if I'm on to something, if somebody else was on to something, Rashawn Slater is the outside zone tackle of this class. So put all that together, maybe we're thinking too much here, but that could be the case. But it feels like they've been locked in on Waddle. Doesn't necessarily have to be Waddle. It could be Devontae Smith, who I would prefer over Waddle. Who knows? I just don't think their plans are just all of a sudden changing 2 days before the draft, because yesterday they made that deal. I think they were locked in with the guy. At the same time of being okay with maybe another guy behind that when they made not the Flowers trade, the trade with the Niners and the Eagles. So I don't think plans have changed for them for a long time, really. Saints trading up for Farley. This was kind of a recent one. I don't know, but I'm gonna go smoke. It just feels like smoke. But first off, I don't know if the Saints will even trade up. Trading up in general, is that smoke? It felt like, they let a lot of guys go and they didn't really gain anybody. It feels like they need more picks to fill those roster spots. At the same time, they can get some stud guys with their drafting skills on day 2, adding more of those picks. So that felt right to me. Trading up doesn't really feel right, but I'm not going to rule that out at all. That actually could be fact that they may just want to trade up for somebody. I think it's just too damn specific. We want to trade up for Caleb Farley. It's came out from multiple different sources, multiple different people. The Saints just don't come out and say that. They've been linked to people in the past drafts too that I remember just did not end up being true. I think a lot of teams like that. So the fact that it's coming out so specific, Farley's injury concerns get more and more concerning by the minute. Hearing that he may need at least one more surgery going into the season after this. It's not guaranteed that he's going to be 100% healthy even after that. His last injury got hurt just by lifting weights. That's a problem. Hearing he go to the second round. So if Farley slips to you and you want to take a chance because that upside's ridiculous, that makes sense to me. But trading up for that, I just do not see anybody, not just the Saints. I don't see anybody trading up for injury concern. It just doesn't make sense. This got smoke written all over it. Broncos out on a QB after trade. So just moments before recording this, they traded for Teddy Bridgewater. And right when I saw that, I'm thinking this is fact. They're out on a quarterback after that trade. They got Bridgewater, Drew Lock. They're going to battle out. Maybe they start with Lock. Maybe they have to switch to more of the game manager type in Teddy Bridgewater because they have the roster that is okay to have a game manager type. So that made sense to me. But then you see the details that the Panthers will pay $7 million out of it. The Broncos are only paying $3 million. That's it. Just $3 million. And they only traded a 6th-round pick. Now, that's really safe. That's no risk really at all. And Teddy Bridgewater is a bridge. That the bridge in Bridgewater stands for bridge quarterback apparently these days. And maybe it could be for Drew Lock. You don't really see that too often, bring in a bridge guy and then have the other guy sit. It's usually to draft somebody else. So the more I'm thinking about it, the more the details come out. I still think they could be in on a quarterback, but or they may be out on a quarterback, I should say. But I still think they are in. But I just don't want people to get confused here. This doesn't mean they're taking a quarterback for sure. This means I think people get confused when I talk about the Falcons one. I was talking about on Twitter. So similar situation here. This could mean that if the certain quarterback falls to them, I think they like a quarterback in this draft. I think they really like a quarterback. I think if he falls, I think they take him. I don't know if they're going to trade up for a guy. I don't know if they end up with their guy if their guy falls to them. I just don't think. I think saying they're out is just kind of smoke. And they may have played it perfectly here. They may have told people, let people know we just got Bridgewater, we're out. And they actually could be in. So that could have been the move right there of all moves. Then we got the Patriots. We're just going straight to it on this one, apparently. Using Gilmore to trade up. This is a tough one, too. But as you can see, it's already up there. I'm going smoke and Jay Cuddy here for the Patriots. I could be wrong on this one for sure. But all offseason, people came to me, do you think the Patriots trade Gilmore? Will they trade him in free agency? It came up all the time. And I said, I don't think so. I didn't say for sure no. I said, I don't think so. I think they still like Gilmore. I think they would like to extend him for the right price. And I kept bringing up that J.C. Jackson, I think the Patriots are okay moving on from him because they put a 2nd-round tender on him, not a first as expected, a second. I kind of felt like they wanted the team to sign him and then give him the 2nd-round pick. That didn't happen. He signed the tender. No extension for J.C. Jackson of the Patriots. Maybe they accept the 3rd plus for him. It just kind of, that's the feeling I got. They're not obviously going to move on from both Gilmore and J.C. Jackson. I don't think so. But not too long ago, from a credible source, I heard that the Patriots do want it, something we knew. They want to trade up for a quarterback, but they don't want to trade a future first, a 2022 first. They don't want to do that. And I'm thinking at that time, well, then they're not trading up. They may, for them to go from 15 to where we're projecting them, they're going to have to trade that future first pick. But now this comes along that they could use Gilmore. Those two kind of make more sense then. That starts to make it sound like it's fact because they don't want to trade that future first. But they got Gilmore to offer, and that's a way around it. Gilmore and some other picks, second, third, whatever it may be. That would make sense, But and that would make it sound like I want to put facts here, but I'm kind of sticking to my original judgment that they really don't want to trade him. I think they could be open for the right moment, the right quarterback to go up and get. J.C. Jackson more likely to be involved. How could he be involved? Does he have as much value as Gilmore? No, but I don't know. That's just kind of my gut feeling there that and we'll see. I don't know if there's that many teams. There's not. I think people are predicting with maybe they can move on from Gilmore. I think it's more of that. Maybe prediction, maybe it's assumption. But trying to figure out which teams would kind of be able to make that deal work with Gilmore. And you look at the team like the Panthers, really the only one that makes a lot of sense there. So maybe something with the Panthers there if it's Gilmore or if it's J.C. Jackson's a possibility. J.C. Jackson would almost make more sense there. Patriots run a lot of man, but with J.C. Jackson, they're running him off, which typically you see in zone more, and the Panthers run a lot of cover 3. So J.C. Jackson would make more sense there. Obviously, Gilmore more appealing. Could be the best corner in football at any time. So we'll see. There's a lot of madness going on like usual. That's why you got to love the NFL draft. We'll have you covered for all of it right here. We'll be live day one. We got you covered all the time on our Twitter instantly when things happen. So check that out. Link pin in the comments for anything that you need in any video is there. So check that out. Turn notifications on, be very important as well. Smash that like button, subscribe. Got a bunch of videos on the channel and then more. My final mock draft to come here. Winners, losers, day 2 mock draft. That's all during the NFL draft, during those 3-day period here. That's going to do it though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.